They say if you do your job right in IT, nobody knows you exist. Well, I must be a goddamn phantom, because for 14 years, I've been the invisible glue holding prestige logistics together with duct tape, caffeine, and lines of code that look like the scribblings of a madman on death row. My office isn't really an office. It's a repurposed supply closet in the basement that smells like ozone and the ghost of a dead rat that maintenance never found. It's 65 degrees down here, year-round. The hum of the server racks is the only lullaby I've known since the Obama administration. Upstairs, on the glass-walled floors where the air smells like vanilla lattes and unearned bonuses, they think the website stays up because of synergy and positive vibes. They think emails get delivered because the universe wants them to make that sale. They don't know about the script I wrote in 2012 that reboots the SQL database every night at 3:14 a.m. because the memory leak is so bad it would sink the Titanic. They don't know that I manually patch the firewall every Tuesday while they are at happy hour, fighting off Russian botnets with one hand and eating a lukewarm tuna melt with the other. I am the plumber of the digital age, wading through their electronic sewage so they can keep their toilets gold-plated. I'm Cheryl. I'm 47. My hair is graying at the temples, usually pulled back in a clip that's holding on for dear life, much like my patience. I wear hoodies because the AC down here is set to morgue, and I drink coffee that's been sitting on the burner long enough to dissolve a spoon. Speaking of dissolving, if you want to see how I dissolved a multi-million-dollar company without getting off my ass, go ahead and hit subscribe. It costs you $0, which is exactly what my dignity was worth to these people. Anyway, back to the dumpster fire. The founder, Old Man Henderson, used to come down here. He was a bastard, but he was a smart bastard. He knew the difference between a router and a toaster. He knew that I held the keys to the kingdom. He'd slap me on the back, hand me a Christmas bonus check that actually cleared, and say, "Keep the lights on, Cheryl." But Henderson got soft. He got rich. And then, inevitably, he got a midlife crisis that manifested in the form of a Porsche he couldn't drive and a new wife he couldn't handle. He retired to a golf course in Florida to wait for melanoma, leaving the company in the hands of the next generation. That was the beginning of the end. The silence down here changed. It stopped feeling like a sanctuary and started feeling like a waiting room for disaster. I could feel the vibrations from the floor above, the heavy footsteps of incompetence marching in. I sat there last Monday, staring at the blinking green lights of the rack. Green means good. Green means money. Green means I did my job. I had a terminal window open, watching the traffic flow like blood through a vein. It was beautiful in a sick, industrial way. I created this architecture. I built the DNS routing from scratch when we were just a warehouse with a dial-up modem. Every error page, every redirect, every load balancer, that's my DNA in there. But to the suits upstairs, I'm just IT grandma. I'm the grim reaper who shows up to tell them they can't install TikTok on their work laptops. I'm the necessary evil. I checked my bank account on my second monitor. It hadn't moved much in 5 years. Inflation is eating my 401k like a termite in a pine cabin, and my request for a raise has been under review since before COVID was a headline. I took a drag of my vape. Yeah, I vape in the server room, fire codes be damned, and exhaled a cloud of blueberry ice into the exhaust fan. I knew something was coming. The air pressure in the building had shifted. The Slack channels were buzzing with that frenetic, nervous energy that happens right before a reorganization. People were using words like streamlining and pivot. Streamlining is corporate speak for we're going to fire the people who work and give their salaries to a consultant who wears a vest. My phone buzzed. It was a text from the new HR director, a woman who looked at me like I was a stain on her beige carpet. Emergency all-hands meeting. 10 o'clock a.m., main conference room. Attendance mandatory. I looked at the server rack one last time. The fan's word, a steady, mechanical breathing. "Don't worry, babies," I whispered, patting the cold metal of the main chassis. "Mama's gotta go see the clowns." I grabbed my keycard, the one with the laminate peeling off the corner, and headed for the elevator. I didn't know it then, but I was walking into my own execution. But the thing about executing the person who built the gallows is, sometimes they know where the trap door is, and sometimes they rigged it to swing both ways. I ascended from the basement, blinking in the harsh fluorescent light of the lobby. The elevator dinged, sounding like a bell at a boxing match where one guy is blindfolded. I stepped out onto the executive floor. The carpet was thick enough to drown in. The art on the walls was abstract and cost more than my car. And there she was, standing at the head of the polished mahogany table, radiating an aura of toxic positivity and expensive perfume that smelled like expired vanilla extract. New queen, the disaster I'd been waiting for. The conference room smelled like fear and dry erase markers. The entire staff was crammed in there, shifting uncomfortably in those ergonomic mesh chairs that are supposed to save your back but really just pinch your ass. At the front of the room stood Henderson's replacement. Not a seasoned CEO, not a logistics expert. It was Lisa. Lisa was 32, blonde, and possessed the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes, just bared her teeth like a golden retriever that's about to bite a toddler. She was Henderson's new wife. Well, his third wife, to be precise. Her background was in lifestyle blogging and brand curation. I looked her up once. Her biggest achievement was an Instagram page where she posed with smoothies in front of graffiti walls. Now, apparently, she was the VP of operations. She clapped her hands together, the sound sharp and violent in the hushed room. Hi, team. Wow. So many faces, some of them older than I expected for a tech-forward company, she laughed. A few sycophants in the front row chuckled nervously. I just leaned against the back wall, crossing my arms over my faded Nostromo crew hoodie. I felt like a gargoyle crashing a debutante ball. We're making changes, Lisa announced, pacing back and forth in heels that cost more than my monthly rent. Big changes. Prestige Logistics has been stagnant, dusty, running on legacy energy. I want to bring in high-vibe efficiency. I snorted, loudly. I couldn't help it. High-vibe efficiency sounds like something you buy from a shady guy at a music festival, not a business strategy. Lisa's head snapped toward me. Her eyes narrowed, scanning me up and down like I was a piece of malware she couldn't delete. Do you have a comment? I'm sorry, I don't know your name, she asked, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. Cheryl, I said. I voice gravelly from years of Marlboros and screaming internally. Senior infrastructure admin and high-vibe won't optimize the truck routing algorithms, Lisa. Math does that. The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the projector fan struggling to cool down. Lisa smiled, but it was the kind of smile a shark gives a seal before the water turns red. Cheryl, right. The IT grandma I've heard so much about. There were a few gasps. I didn't flinch. I've been called worse by better people. We're moving in a new direction, Cheryl, she continued, addressing the room but maintaining eye contact with me. We're pivoting to a cloud-first, visually driven platform. We need digital strategists, influencers, innovators, not mechanics. She said mechanics like it was a slur. Like people who fix things are the dirt under the fingernails of society. I've brought in my own team, Lisa gestured to the door. Chad, come on in. Oh, Chad? Of course his name was Chad. He was 20-something, wearing skinny jeans that cut off circulation to his brain and a beanie, despite it being 72 degrees inside. He was holding a MacBook covered in stickers for crypto exchanges. Chad is our new digital visionary, Lisa beamed. He's going to revamp our entire web presence. He built a website for a dog-walking app that got like 10,000 hits. I almost laughed. 10,000? Lisa. Our server handles 10,000 requests per second during peak hours. If this kid touches the load balancer, he's going to melt the motherboard. Lisa's face hardened. The mask dropped. That negative attitude is exactly what we're purging, Cheryl. She walked over to me, invading my personal space. She smelled like coconut and hostility. I've looked at the budget, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You're the highest paid employee in the non-executive tier. For what? Sitting in a basement watching lights blink? It's redundant. The cloud runs itself these days. The ignorance was so dense it practically had its own gravitational pull. The cloud, I said slowly, is just someone else's computer. Someone still has to manage it. You fire me and you're driving a Ferrari blindfolded on ice. I think we'll manage, she scoffed. Chad knows Wix.com. I stared at her. Wix. She thought our enterprise-level logistics platform, which integrated with customs databases in 40 countries and tracked shipping containers in real time, could be replaced by a drag-and-drop website builder. You're serious, I said. Dead serious, she snapped, effective immediately. We're restructuring. Your role is obsolete. Clean out your desk, Cheryl. You have until noon. The room was frozen. People were looking at their shoes. Nobody spoke up. Not the ops manager whose ass I saved last week when he deleted the inventory table. Not the sales VP whose commission checks relied on my uptime. Nobody. Cowards. I looked at Chad, who was already typing on his phone, probably tweeting about his new VP status. I looked at Lisa, smug and victorious. A strange calm washed over me. It was the cold, hard clarity of a system reboot. Okay, I said. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. You want the keys? You got 'em. Leave your badge at the front desk, she dismissed me, turning back to her audience. Now let's talk about the new logo. I'm thinking pink. I turned around and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently. The click of the latch sounded like the safety coming off a loaded gun. She wanted me to clean out my desk. Oh, I was going to clean it out all right. I was going to scrub it cleaner than a crime scene. I walked back to the elevator, the silence in the hallway ringing in my ears. My heart wasn't racing. It was beating that slow, heavy rhythm of a war drum. I descended back into the underworld, the basement air greeting me like an old friend who knows you just got dumped. My office looked the same as I left it 30 minutes ago, but now it felt like a museum exhibit of a life that was over. The sysadmin's tomb, circa 2023. I grabbed a cardboard box from the recycling pile. I didn't have much. A framed photo of my dog, Buster Rip, you magnificent bastard, a stress ball shaped like a hand grenade, and my stash of emergency Twizzlers. I swept them into the box. Then I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Hidden underneath a pile of outdated manuals for Windows Server 2008 was a small, unassuming black USB drive. Piece of masking tape on it read Mirror 01. I held it in my hand, feeling the weight of it. It wasn't heavy physically, but metaphysically, it weighed about $10 million. Flashback to 5 years ago. Henderson was paranoid about ransomware. He'd read an article in Forbes and came down here sweating bullets. Cheryl, he'd said, I want a failover. A hard reset if the Russians take us hostage. I want a button I can press that wipes the slate and restores from a clean, isolated backup. But I don't want it on the network. I want it physical. That's dangerous, boss, I told him. If that key gets lost or if the encryption handshake fails, the system interprets it as a breach and locks down. It's a nuclear option. Build it, he ordered. Tie it to your biometrics. You're the only one I trust, so I did. I built a ghost protocol. The entire architecture of the company, the DNS pointers, the API keys, the SSL certificates, was tethered to a verification token that renewed every 24 hours via my admin login. If my login was disabled, or if I didn't manually authorize the handshake, the system would assume a hostile takeover. It would initiate Protocol 0. Basically, the system would pack its bags and leave, just like I was doing. I plugged the USB into my terminal one last time. The screen flickered. A prompt appeared, initiate transfer of ownership. I typed N, another prompt, authorization token required in 24 hours. I smiled, a tight, grim line. They had 24 hours. I opened the user management console. I found my own account, Crobinson admin. I hovered over the disable button. Lisa wanted me gone. She wanted high vibe efficiency. She wanted Chad and his Wix skills. You want a clean desk, Lisa? I muttered, lighting a cigarette. Yeah, a real cigarette this time. The smoke curled up into the ventilation shaft, carrying my resignation letter in the form of carcinogens. I'll give you the cleanest desk you've ever seen. I didn't delete anything. That would be illegal. I didn't plant a virus. That would be amateur. I simply removed my personal intellectual property. I opened the cron jobs, the automated scripts that ran the business. They were all signed with my digital signature. I wrote a quick script to revoke my signature from the Active Directory. Effectively, I was taking my name off the lease. And when the landlord realizes the tenant is gone, he turns off the lights. I looked at the server rack. The lights were still blinking green. Innocent, unaware, be good, I whispered. Daddy's coming home drunk and Mama's leaving. I pulled the USB drive. The computer chimed, a cheerful little ding-dong sound that signaled the device was safely removed. I picked up my box. I walked out of the supply closet. I left my badge on the desk, right next to the empty wrapper of a breakfast burrito. I took the freight elevator up to the loading dock. I wasn't going to walk past the glass walls again. I stepped out into the grayness, the air smelling of wet asphalt and diesel. My car was waiting for me. I threw the box in the passenger seat. I climbed in, cranked the engine, and turned up the radio. Some country song about heartbreak and whiskey was playing. How fitting. I pulled out my phone. I navigated to a private URL that only I knew. A simple login screen appeared. Cheryl Backup Ops LLC. I logged in. The dashboard was blank, waiting for data. Mirror protocol active, the screen read, waiting for source disconnect. I put the truck in gear and drove away. I didn't look back at the building. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what was going to happen. It wasn't a matter of if. It was a matter of when the cache cleared. The first 6 hours were quiet. That's the thing about momentum. A freight train doesn't stop the second you cut the engine. It keeps rolling, crushing everything in its path until friction finally catches up with it. I was sitting on my couch in my sweatpants, glass of cheap Merlot in one hand and my laptop on the coffee table. My apartment is small, cluttered with computer parts and half-read sci-fi novels, but it's mine, and it's quiet. I had a backdoor monitor running, not into their system, legally speaking, but monitoring the public-facing API responses. It's public data. Anyone could watch it. I was just watching it with popcorn. Around 2:00 p.m., I saw the first hiccup. Latency on the inventory query jumped from 20 ms to 400 ms. There it is, I whispered, swirling my wine. The cache is getting stale. Back at the office, I imagined the scene. Lisa was probably rearranging the furniture in my old office, turning it into a Zen den or some shit. Chad was likely trying to figure out why the Wi-Fi password wasn't password 123. I got a text from Gary, one of the warehouse guys I used to smoke with on the loading dock. Gary, hey C, scanner guns are acting weird. Lagging like crazy. You doing updates? I didn't reply. I couldn't. I wasn't an employee anymore. Replying would be consulting, and I didn't have a contract. By 4:00 p.m., the latency was up to 2 seconds. In the world of high-frequency logistics, 2 seconds is an eternity. It's the difference between a truck making a delivery and a truck sitting at a gate getting fined by the minute. I checked the website. The banner image, a stock photo of a handshake that Lisa probably picked out, was failing to load. It was just a broken image icon. A little jagged square of failure. Chad was probably sweating now, just a little. He'd be clicking refresh, wondering why his Wix skills weren't translating to a custom-built Linux stack. He'd try to log into the admin panel, and that's when he'd see it. Access denied, token expired, contact administrator. But there was no administrator. The administrator was currently watching a rerun of Golden Girls and eating a block of sharp cheddar cheese like an apple. I could see the error logs piling up on the public dashboard. HTTP 500 errors, internal server errors, the screams of a dying machine. Lisa would be hovering over Chad's shoulder, her perfume turning sour with stress. Just fix it, Chad, she'd bark. Reboot the router, call the internet company. Chad would be typing furiously, trying random passwords. Admin 1, root, God, Lisa rocks, nothing would work. Because the authentication server was looking for my biometric hash, and unless Chad had severed my thumb and kept it in his pocket, he wasn't getting in. I poured another glass of wine. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across my living room. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and exhilaration. It's hard to watch something you built die. It's like watching your child get arrested. You know it's their fault, but you still remember when they were cute and innocent. But then I remembered Lisa's face. Clean out your desk, IT grandma. The sadness evaporated. The phone started ringing around 5:30 p.m. It was the general office number. I let it go to voicemail. Then came a text from an unknown number. Unknown, hey Cheryl, it's Chad. Weird question, did you leave the passwords anywhere? We're locked out. I chuckled. Locked out? Buddy, you haven't even found the door yet. I blocked the number. The illusion of control was shattering. They thought they bought a car. They didn't realize they just leased the driver, and without the driver, the car is just a 2-ton paperweight. The real fun was going to start tomorrow morning. Monday, the busiest shipping day of the week. I set my alarm for 8 o'clock a.m. I wanted to be fully awake for the apocalypse. Monday morning dawned with the gray, oppressive sky of winter. I woke up stretched and made a pot of coffee strong enough to strip paint. I didn't have to commute. I didn't have to put on a bra. I was a free woman. I opened my laptop. The Prestige Logistics website wasn't just slow. It was gone. 404 not found. It wasn't just the homepage. The API endpoints were dead. The vendor portals were dark. The email server, unreachable. I took a sip of coffee and imagined the scene at headquarters. It wouldn't be a zen den anymore. It would be a mosh pit of despair. At 9 o'clock a.m., the automated orders usually start flooding in from the East Coast distributors. Thousands of orders a minute. Today, 0. My phone started buzzing again. Not texts this time. Calls. First, it was the HR lady. Blocked, then the ops manager. Blocked. Then a number I didn't recognize, probably a frantic board member. Silenced. I logged into Twitter or X, whatever the hell it is now, and searched for Prestige Logistics. The tweets were rolling in. At Trucker Dave 88, been sitting at the dock for 3 hours. Prestige system down, no manifest, no load. WTF is going on? Prestige Logistics trucking hell at Global Imports LLC. At Prestige Logistics, your vendor portal is 404. We have perishable goods waiting. Answer the phone. At Karen from Finance, not actual handle, but close enough. Is Prestige Logistics bankrupt? Their website is gone. I leaned back, lighting a cigarette. The smoke swirled around the screen. The internal systems, the ones I knew intimately, would be in cascading failure. The database, unable to verify the admin token, would have locked itself in safe mode, which basically means read-only. They could see the data, maybe, but they couldn't add new orders, couldn't print shipping labels, couldn't process payments. The warehouse would be a graveyard. Conveyor belts halted. Scanners beeping angry red error tones, forklifts idling, and Lisa. Oh, Lisa, she'd be screaming. I knew it, she'd be screaming at Chad. You said you were a visionary, she'd shriek. It's legacy code. Chad would bleat, sweating through his beanie. She sabotaged it. She put a logic bomb in here. It wasn't a bomb, Chad, it was a dead man's switch, and the man is dead. At 10:15 a.m., the realization would hit the C-suite. This wasn't a glitch. This was an outage, and every minute they were down, they were losing roughly $10,000 in revenue. $10,000. $20,000. $30,000. By lunch, it'd have lost $500,000. My phone rang again. This time I looked at the screen. Lisa, new boss. I watched it ring. I watched the name dance on the screen. I took a drag of my cigarette. Let it burn, I whispered. I didn't answer. I went to the kitchen and made myself a sandwich, a really good sandwich. Turkey, Swiss, extra pickles, and a healthy dose of I told you so mustard. When I came back, there were 12 missed calls from Lisa. 5 from the CFO. 3 from Henderson. He must have paused his golf game. The panic had spread. It wasn't just an IT problem anymore. It was an existential threat. The digital heart of the company had stopped beating, and they had fired the only cardiologist in the state. I sat down and opened a new terminal window. I wasn't logging into their system. I was logging into my backup server, the one hosting the mirror data. It was pristine, ready, waiting. I checked the timestamp. 24 hours and 15 minutes since my departure. The lockout was total. The silence in my apartment was beautiful, but the silence coming from the Prestige Logistics IP address, that was a symphony. By 2 o'clock p.m. Monday, the bleeding wasn't just internal, it was arterial. I imagined the boardroom smelled less like vanilla and more like armpit sweat and stale donuts. Henderson had conferenced in from Florida. I could picture him, red-faced in a polo shirt, screaming into a speakerphone. What do you mean admin access restricted? His voice would be booming. It's my company. We're trying to bypass the firewall. Chad would be mumbling, typing commands he found on Stack Overflow that were definitely making things worse. But the encryption? It's 256-bit custom hashing. I can't just break it. Why isn't Cheryl fixing this? Henderson would demand. And then the silence. The heavy, suffocating silence where Lisa had to speak. Let her go, Lisa would whisper. You what? We're restructuring. She was resistant to the new vision. Chad said he could handle the migration. Chad, Henderson's voice would crack. The kid who looks like he sells weed at a skate park. You fired Cheryl? Cheryl who built the damn server rack with a screwdriver and a prayer? The CFO, a guy named Marcus who was actually decent but spineless, would chime in. Sir, losing approximately $15,000 a minute. The vendors are triggering penalty clauses for non-fulfillment. If we aren't back online by 5 p.m., we lose the Amazon contract. The Amazon contract, the whale, the thing that paid for Lisa's heels and Henderson's Porsche. I was sitting on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the squirrels fight over a nut. It was a metaphor, really. They were fighting for scraps while the whole tree was rotting. My phone chimed, a voicemail from Marcus, CFO. I decided to listen to this one. Cheryl, it's Marcus. Look, we have a situation, a catastrophic situation. We know you left, we know things were said, but we need the admin keys, we need the token. We can't get into the core routing. Please call us back. We can discuss compensation. Compensation. Now we're speaking my language. I didn't call back immediately. You don't negotiate when the other person is just starting to panic. You negotiate when they are staring into the abyss and the abyss is waving a lawsuit at them. I checked the public logs again. Chad had managed to crash the backup email server now. Good job, Chad. You're doing great, sweetie. The sun began to dip lower. The deadline for the Amazon contract fulfillment was approaching. I knew exactly what was happening. They were realizing that high-vibe efficiency doesn't parse JSON files. They were realizing that brand curation doesn't fix a corrupt SQL table. Lisa would be crying now. Not fake influencer tears, but real, ugly, I'm about to lose my trophy wife status tears. She'd be realizing that her power was an illusion. She could order people around, sure, but she couldn't order a server to work. The server didn't care about her title. Server only cared about the code, and the code belonged to me. At 4 p.m., I decided it was time. The fish was on the hook and it had swallowed the bait, the line, and the sinker. I picked up the phone. I didn't call Lisa. I didn't call Marcus. I called the main conference room line. I knew they were all in there, huddled around the Polycom phone like a campfire in a blizzard. I dialed. It rang once. Hello, it was Lisa. She sounded breathless, desperate. Hi. Lisa, I said, my voice smooth as silk and cold as ice. I heard you guys were having some trouble with the Wi-Fi. Cheryl, Lisa's voice cracked. Oh my God, Cheryl, thank God. Where are you? Can you come in? The system, it's doing something weird. We think it's a virus. It's not a virus, Lisa, I said, leaning back in my chair and putting my feet up on the coffee table. It's a security protocol. Specifically, Protocol 0. It triggers when the authorized admin is removed from the Active Directory without a handover. Okay, well, can you just turn it off? She sounded like she was asking me to turn down the radio. Just come in, fix it, and we can talk about, maybe bringing you back on a freelance basis. I laughed, a dry, rasping laugh. Freelance? Lisa, you fired me, with cause apparently. Redundancy, remember? We were hasty, she stammered. Chad made a mistake. Don't blame the kid, I said. You're the VP of Ops. The buck stops with your Manilo-Blahniks. Cheryl, please, Marcus, the CFO, cut in. We are bleeding here. The Amazon contract is on the line. What do you want, a raise? We can match your old salary plus 10%. 10%? I took a sip of my wine. Marcus, I'm not an employee anymore. I'm a consultant. And my rates are significantly higher for emergency remediation. Fine, Marcus said, double. Pay you double your hourly rate. You're not listening, I said. I don't have an hourly rate, I have a project fee. To restore the infrastructure, verify the data integrity, and prevent a total database corruption event. The fee is $1 million. Dead silence on the line. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear Chad's soul leaving his body. 1 million? Lisa screeched. That's extortion? I'll call the police. That's blackmail. No, Lisa, I said calmly. Blackmail is pay me or I'll release your nudes. This is pay me or fix your own damn computer. It's a specialized service. Supply and demand. You have the demand, desperate, immediate demand. I have the supply, the encryption keys, and the architectural knowledge. The price is $1 million. Wired, today. We can't pay that. Henderson roared from the speakerphone. That's robbery. How much is the Amazon contract worth, Henderson? I asked. $5 million a year. Plus the penalties for breach of contract? Plus the reputation damage? Seems like a bargain to me. You bitch, Lisa spat. You planned this. I planned for failover, I corrected. I planned for security. You're the one who pulled the plug without checking the wiring diagram. You wanted me to clean out my desk? I did. I took my intellectual property with me. The system you have left is exactly what you paid for, the hardware. Good luck running a logistics company on bare metal. We'll sue you? Lisa screamed. Go ahead, I said. My lawyer is great, but legal proceedings take months. Your company will be dead by Wednesday. The vendors are already walking, Marcus. I saw the logs. Marcus sighed, a heavy, defeated sound. She's right, Henderson. We can't fix this. Chad doesn't even know what a cron job is. We need her. 1 million, I repeated. Non-negotiable. Sent to Cheryl Robinson Consulting LLC. I'll email you the routing number. I'm not paying it. Lisa shrieked. I won't let her win. Lisa Henderson's voice was low and dangerous. Shut up, but shut up, Henderson roared. Marcus, pay her. Get the site back up. Now. Yes, sir, Marcus said, and Lisa Henderson added, pack your shit. I smiled. It was a genuine smile this time. I'll wait for the wire confirmation, Marcus. Once it hits, I'll remote in. I hung up. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I finished my wine. It took 45 minutes. 45 minutes for the corporate bureaucracy to move faster than it had in 14 years. I sat there, refreshing my bank app. Refresh. Nothing. Refresh. Nothing. Refresh. $1 million and 0 cents wire transfer received Prestige Logistics Inc. I stared at the zeros. It looked fake. It looked like a phone number, but it was real. I set down my phone. I cracked my knuckles. I opened my terminal. I didn't even have to put on pants. I connected to the backup server, my server. I initiated the handshake protocol. Command/run restore admin link sh password, accessing remote host, handshake verified, restoring DNS pointers, reintegrating cron jobs, system status, rebooting. It took 3 minutes of typing. That's it. That's what $1 million bought them. 3 minutes of my time and 14 years of my experience. I watched the public dashboard. The red errors stopped. The 404s vanished. The website flickered back to life. The login page appeared. The broken handshake image was replaced by the actual banner. I picked up the phone and texted Marcus. Me, you're live. Tell Chad not to touch the load balancer again, or it will cost $2 million next time. Marcus, received, thank you. Please send the final invoice for our records. I could only imagine the scene in the conference room. The relief, the silence, and the glare of hatred directed at Lisa. From what I heard later, via Gary, my mole on the loading dock, it was a bloodbath. Henderson didn't even wait for the meeting to end. He fired Lisa on the spot, in front of everyone. You cost me $1 million and 12 hours of downtime because you didn't like her vibe? Henderson had apparently screamed. Get out and take your digital visionary with you. Chad was crying, actually crying. He tried to take his MacBook, but security confiscated it because it was company property, even though it had his crypto wallet on it. Lisa tried to argue. She tried to pull the I'm your wife card. Henderson looked at her and said, my lawyer will be in touch. I think we have a prenup for gross negligence. Ouch, but honestly, I didn't care about Lisa. She was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was the culture that thought IT was a utility you could switch vendors on like a gas company. The disease was thinking that strategy trumps competence. I sat there in my quiet apartment, now a millionaire minus taxes, thanks Uncle Sam. The sun had gone down. The city lights were flickering on outside. I felt light. I had spent 14 years holding up that building. I had carried the weight of their incompetence on my shoulders. And when they kicked me out, they realized that I wasn't the load, I was the pillar. I closed my laptop. The fan whirred to a stop. I was done. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in a new office. Well, it's still a home office, but I bought a Herman Miller chair and a desk that doesn't wobble, and I upgraded my coffee machine to an espresso maker that costs more than my first car. Prestige Logistics is still running, barely. I hired a team of expensive consultants to try and map my architecture. Good luck with that. My code is commented in sarcasm and inside jokes they'll never understand. Gary tells me they're running at 60% efficiency. Every time something breaks, they panic because they don't know which wire to pull. Lisa is gone. Rumor has it she's trying to launch a podcast about overcoming workplace toxicity. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. As for me, day after the blackout, I got a call. It was from the VP of Operations at Global Imports, Prestige's biggest vendor, the one who tweeted at them. Cheryl, he said, Marcus told me what happened. Off the record, that was the most gangster move I've ever seen. It was just business, I said. We need someone who understands infrastructure like that, he said. We're tired of Prestige's latency. We're building our own internal logistics routing. We want you to architect it. Consulting basis only, I said. And I work from home. And I don't do team building exercises. Done, he said. So now I run Cheryl Robinson Consulting. I have one client, I work 4 hours a day, and I make triple what I made in that dungeon basement. I still wear my hoodie. I still chain smoke Marlboros on the balcony now. I'm trying to be classy. Tonight, I'm drinking a glass of 18-year-old scotch. Have YouTube open on my massive 4K monitor. Danny DeVito eating a hard-boiled egg asthma. The title reads, I hit play. The crunching sounds are strangely soothing. I think about Henderson, poorer and divorced again. I think about Lisa, shilling essential oils or whatever she's doing now. I think about Chad, probably ruining some other company's SEO. I take a sip of scotch. They thought they could delete me. They thought I was just a line item in a budget. They forgot the first rule of IT. You can replace the hardware. You can update the software. But you never, ever damn with the sysadmin who knows where the bodies are buried. Because sometimes we didn't just bury the bodies. We dug the graves, poured the concrete, and wrote the code that keeps the cemetery locked. I close my eyes, listening to Danny DeVito chew. We're all healed. Thanks for watching, you cubicle warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. Revenge of the coffee pot strikes again.